the main question I always get is, how do you know if it's going to make you money? How do you know if it's a good area? And it all comes down to amenities. Airbnb is, gained a lot of popularity within like the past year, I feel like. So there's people coming in and just half-assing it, not really doing it right. And then there's people who come in and treat it like a legit business, and those are the ones that see the success. And one thing I really look for is amenities in the building itself.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Real Estate Podcast. Today we have a very special guest. We got Hailey Anderson. She is 20 years old. She's an Airbnb Superhost. She's got 19 properties, and she utilizes the Airbnb arbitrage method.
Correct.
All right, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I think this is going to be really exciting for many reasons, right? I think a lot of people don't understand creative ways to start making money through real estate, such as Airbnb arbitrage. And then also the fact that you're 20 years old. You started this when you were 19?
Yep, 19.
So started when you were 19, and probably could be doing anything else that all your friends are doing, but you decided to build this business, and you're obviously very successful. So I think it's going to add a lot of value to our listeners.
I think it's great too, because I feel like real estate can be kind of intimidating for a lot of people. They think like, oh, I don't have money, or I'm not a millionaire. But this is so like entry level to real estate that can allow you to eventually purchase real estate, which is the end goal for me and like many others. So I think it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, tell us, you were just telling me how you moved to Austin from Florida.
Yep.
So where in Florida are you from?
I'm from Jacksonville. My dad was in the military, so we were born in Jacksonville, but I've traveled my whole life. Every 3 years we moved. And then like 5 to 6 months ago, my sister moved to Austin, and I was like, this is my chance to get out of my small hometown. And it's just been up since then.
Yeah. And so did you start the Airbnb business when you moved here?
So I actually started while I was in Florida.
Okay.
And my first 3 properties were in Austin. So it kind of was like, I'm already familiar with the area. I like it. And I was operating remotely for about 3 to 4 months. And then I was like, I'm just going to move there. So,
yeah. So why, how'd you get into Airbnb arbitrage? Did you watch a TikTok or something?
It kind of was like that, yeah, honestly. I saw it all over, like, social media in general, and, like, just the name Airbnb, but I've never, like, thought about how I could do it myself. I saw a video, and I was still in high school, so, like, I was graduating early. I was doing online school, and at the time I was doing e-commerce, like, drop shipping and all that, and, like, it was working, but it was just, I didn't have the money to put into it like I needed to. And I came across Airbnb, and I was like, you know what, if I could, run this business, why not give Airbnb a shot? And so I started outreaching. I got a yes, and I was just like, all right, this is what I've been wanting, like, time to do it.
Yeah. So is anybody else in your family an entrepreneur? I know you said your dad's in the military.
So my sister does email SMS marketing. So she's like in the agency space. So growing up, like I like helped work with her and everything. So I kind of feel like from a young age, I just had like that entrepreneur mindset. Like when I was little, I was making YouTube videos selling like crafts that I was making. So like I feel like I've just always had it in me. But really growing up with my sister and seeing like you don't have to go work a 9 to 5 and hate your job kind of inspired me.
That's pretty cool. So your sister was really the role model for you in this sense.
Yes.
So when you're in high school and you're drop shipping and doing e-commerce and YouTube videos selling crafts and stuff, I'm sure that was much different than what your friends were doing.
Yeah. It was kind of hard too, because like, middle school, high school, you care a lot about what people think. At least I did personally. I still kind of do, but not as much. It was hard because I was like, oh, I don't want to do YouTube videos because I don't want people at school to bully me or whatnot. But it came to a point where it was just like, do I want to be like how they are and not really doing anything or, anything sufficient with their life? Or do I want to be different, get the chance of being bullied, but have that chance of being successful and being different? So I just kind of took the leap, I guess.
Yeah, that's good. And
yeah.
It paid off, huh?
Yeah, for sure.
Did you get bullied
I did.
for the YouTube videos?
Yeah, there was like a couple people. If you're watching this, I remember you. But actually one of them's my student now, so kind of like full circle.
Yeah. Well, it's really, I think that's something very powerful you just said, because I think a lot of people in general, and just in whatever it might be, struggle with that aspect of, what are people going to think of me, or what is my family going to think, or I need to go to college and get a job and do this because this is what people want me to do, or this is what people think I should do, versus following their intuition and their heart and their gut, which might be telling them to do something else. So the fact that you're able to do that from a young age, and obviously it's paying off, and you're just at the beginning of everything that you're going to be doing in life, I think is really cool, because there's a ton of freedom in that
For sure.
I think most people probably never get to experience.
Yeah, and that's like the coolest part about it, is because like when I first started, my parents were never very like forceful on like going to college or anything. It kind of was just like not really something we discussed. But I did get like free college because my dad was in the military. So when I first decided to Airbnb, I actually didn't tell my parents. I kind of just like did it because I was scared of the rejection. And my dad actually was like, it's not going to work. Like, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your money. And like, it's your parents, so you want them to support you, and it's coming from a place of like protection. They just want to protect you. But he like was completely against it for like the first like 4 months after I started, and then once I started to send him like, hey, like this is how much money I made this month, he was like, okay. So they'll come around. It's mainly usually from a place of protection, but I did have to go against like, you have your number one supporter just telling you it's not going to work, so it's kind of hard, but it's worth it. Yeah,
well, and good for you. So tell us, so you were doing e-commerce and drop shipping and things, and then you learned about Airbnb arbitrage. So you said you reached out to some landlords, I guess, to see if they would lease you the property. I guess first, before diving into that, explain to everybody what Airbnb arbitrage is, because some people might not know.
Yeah. So Airbnb arbitrage is basically where you are renting a property, so you don't actually own anything, and then you list it on third-party platforms. So all the 19 that I have, I currently do not own. I'm just on like a lease. So just like if I were to go in and apply for an apartment myself, it's just done through the business. So corporate leasing, and then I list it on Airbnb. So every month the first rolls around, I pay rent, and then anything after that I've made that month is fully profit after expenses and everything.
Right. And did you think that you were going to run into a lot of pushback from landlords about renting out their place to you so that you could do Airbnb?
I saw a bunch of videos of people being like they're struggling with that, so I was expecting to struggle, and I did, especially in the beginning. And I think another thing too, my age was kind of like hard for people to accept, but I think over time, as I practiced, I was doing like a bunch of cold calling. Like, I was the person who like avoided class when you had to do presentations. Like, I just was always so scared of that kind of stuff. So thinking to cold call somebody about a business I have no idea about was very intimidating. But I did it anyways. And I think once you grow and you do it over again and you gain that confidence, you can like come in with a lot more authority to these landlords and pitch them why it's beneficial to both of you.
Yeah. Well, give me your pitch. What was the what was it like in the beginning when you were cold calling, and also why'd you choose Austin?
In the beginning, it was not good. My voice was trembling. Like they would ask me questions sometimes I wouldn't know the answer to them. But honestly, at the end of the day, it's a business for both of you. So it needs to be beneficial to not only them, but it needs to obviously be beneficial to you. So that's how you need to approach them. I feel like the word Airbnb just has like a bad stigma around it, like parties and trash or whatever. So I just kind of, instead of like saying, hey, do you allow Airbnb, I kind of hit their pain point of like, hey, I see your property's been on the market for X amount of days. Are you struggling to get a tenant? I will guarantee to pay the rent every single month. I want to sign the longest lease possible. Like, I'll be your best tenant you've ever had. And then I'm like, I do leverage third-party booking sites. And by the time you pitch them the benefits and why it's beneficial to them, they're just like, okay, like, go for it.
Yeah.
And I chose Austin. Honestly, I was outreaching to, like, everywhere. I think, like, every single state possible. I was just, like, going on Zillow, typing a city. Like, every single day I would just pick a city and just outreach to it. And I got a yes in Austin. That was my first yes. The numbers made sense, so I was like, all right.
Very cool.
This is it.
And, I mean, good thing it was Austin. Austin's been doing very, very well.
Yes.
Tell us about, like, the types of properties you're looking for or the types of Airbnbs. Because, honestly, I don't know a tremendous amount about Airbnb as an investment standpoint. We had some, and they didn't do too well. Like, we had a fourplex in Round Rock. Very nice, that we renovated and we were doing Airbnb out of. But after all was said and done, after all the expenses, 20% management, it was about the same we would be getting for a long-term tenant.
Yeah.
Except now we're responsible for way less, right?
Yeah.
I'm not
One person.
I'm not having to, worry about making sure the Airbnb
cleaned
managers books are correct, paying for security, Wi-Fi,
a lot,
etc. Right?
Of moving parts.
And so for our properties, I decided let's just keep them long term. Let's get good tenants in there. Let's raise rents as high as we can. Keep management and maintenance really low and maximize our profit there. But we also don't have, extravagant experiences for an Airbnb guest either. It's just a house or, fourplex. It wasn't anything special necessarily.
So kind of how mine are, they're kind of just average. Not like average as in not like super experienced or anything like that. But at the end of the day, the way I kind of look at it is you're competing with hotels at the end of the day. So what does a hotel not have? The kitchen. Sometimes it doesn't have the amenities. There can be a lot of different things that you can do better than a hotel, and that's kind of how I look at it. So I furnish mine pretty streamlined. Just like last week, I was doing 7 of them, and this is the first time I've ever experienced with like a mural. Like I hired a muralist to come in and paint something. So I keep them pretty streamlined, and I think just having good systems, a nice place to come, you have the kitchen, a fully stocked kitchen, and just coming in and doing it better than hotels it'll work.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I do it now, and I only have apartments currently, so actually, that's a lie. I have apartments and 4 townhomes, 3 beds, 2.5 baths. I just added those, so it was like tapping into bigger properties, and they've been working great. So
with the apartments, these are like 200 plus unit apartment complexes, or?
Yep. So they're just like big mainstream apartment complexes. One of them I'm actually working with is Greystar, so they do allow Airbnb. So yeah, they're just residential apartment complexes, and sometimes they allow corporate leasing if they're not capped out, and then you can come in. I have 20 units under my business. I'm operating with 10 of them in one complex. I referred the other 10 out, but yeah, so in that one building there's 20 Airbnbs just under us.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So how many do you have? I thought it was 19 properties.
I have 19. Like, okay. I'm operating. But under the business, I do have 24.
Okay, so you manage for other people as well?
No, I just referred them out.
Gotcha.
So, like, sublease them to somebody else.
Okay.
I didn't have the funds to take on all of them.
Yeah. All right. So, that makes more sense to me, actually, because when I'm traveling, I actually don't necessarily want to go to Airbnb because I want to utilize the hotel gym, or I want to utilize things like that. But if the apartment complex has it, that could make more sense.
Yeah. So that's another thing too when it comes to like deal analysis and like choosing the right property. I feel like the main question I always get is, how do you know if it's going to make you money? How do you know if it's a good area? And it all comes down to amenities. Airbnb is gained a lot of popularity within like the past year, I feel like. So there's people coming in and just half-assing it, not really doing it right. and then there's people who come in and treat it like a legit business, and those are the ones that see the success. And one thing I really look for is amenities in the building itself, because people like you, people like me, like I want to use the pool, I want to use the hot tub. So why would I not go to a hotel if that's not offered?
Right. And how do you feel like you're structuring your business and your properties also, because you are competing with hotels, but also in Austin and Round Rock, it is pretty saturated with a bunch of Airbnbs too, right? That you're kind of, competing with in a sense. So how do you feel like you've been very successful structuring yours and your units to not only beat out hotels, but also beat out, everybody else in Austin who wants to Airbnb out a property that is half-assing it, like you said?
I think it comes down to just treating it like a legit business at the end of the day, because there is so many people that, like, you'll go on Airbnb and it's like someone took their iPhone out and like took a picture of the bed and was like bed and like listed it on Airbnb. Like, that's not going to convert. That's why your bookings are not happening. That's why your calendar's empty. So just doing the little things that mean so much. Coming in, hiring a real estate photographer, taking professional photos. It's like a couple $100, but it sets you apart from so many other listings. And then also, like, in your photos, like having the towels rolled on the side of the bed. People think hotels at the end of the day. So if you can make them feel like they're staying at a hotel and make it feel professional, they're gonna want to stay with you. Having good reviews, so that comes down to like your messages, how you treat people. It's a hospitality business, so you have to, treat and tend to people. But at the end of the day, I think all of those little things will set you apart from other people.
I like this model too. I was just thinking about it before this podcast started. I was asking if you were going to get a bunch of maintenance calls.
Yep.
Now, if you're renting these out from apartments, they're responsible for the maintenance.
Yep. So
and they have 24/7 staff for the most part to handle it.
So last night, actually, I went out to dinner and my phone just started blowing up, and I was like, oh no. So like during the week, I have a VA who like manages everything. So like anything that goes wrong or guest inquiries, like she handles. So I don't really like on a day-to-day spend too much time in the business. But once she clocks off, like I have to handle it. So I was at dinner and my phone starts going off and it's Airbnb, and the guest is like, oh, the AC is stuck at like 77 degrees. So I called up the handyman who works at the apartment complex, and I was like, hey, this is what's going on. And he was over there in like 10 minutes.
Right.
So that's a pro for working with complexes, is that at the end of the day, you still are paying your rent just like everyone else. So they are responsible for maintenance, as opposed to like, renting from a landlord. They're probably going to want you to kind of handle most of it.
Right. Or owning the property.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So do you know your numbers? Can we run through?
Yeah. Of course.
So how long have you been doing this for?
So I've been doing this since September of 2022.
Okay. So
10 months?
10 months.
Yeah.
And that's when you got your first property in Austin?
Yep. September 14th actually was the day I went live.
Very cool.
Yep.
And that was an apartment?
3 apartments.
Where are these located at?
South Lamar.
All of them?
Yep. They're in the same apartment complex.
All right. And so how much money did you have to start?
$800. I literally had $800. I had $1,000 in my savings, and I used $800 for like the security deposits and the application fees and everything. And then other than that, I used business credit to furnish all of them.
Got it.
I did not have enough money to do it on my own.
Yeah. Well, let's break that down, because again, some of our viewers watching this may have $1,000 and they say, oh, I can't do that. That's not even going to cover deposit and first month's rent. So how you got 3 apartments?
Yep.
How were you able to get 3 apartments with I assume the deposits were probably more than
it was $800 for all 3. Yeah.
Did you negotiate that down at all, or?
Yeah. So actually, I did negotiate it, because I was like, listen, I have $1,000. I didn't tell her this, but in my head, I was like, it can't be more than $1,000, and I don't want to lose the deal. So I negotiated the deposits down, because I kind of hit it as like, I'm taking 3 units at once, like help me out here.
Right.
And they ended up working with me to bring it down to 800. But furnishing wise, I put it all onto business credit just because I didn't have money. Like, I literally couldn't afford to furnish them. I spent about probably like $5,000 for each of them. So $15,000 total. And I used 0% APR card for 12 months. The reason being, obviously no interest. But I didn't have the money. Not only did I not have the money to furnish it, I didn't have the money to pay off the furniture.
Right.
So I was hoping to use the Airbnb payments, which is what I ended up doing. So I had 12 months. I broke even like within 3 months, I would say. F1 was the following month, so that like really helped me break even a lot quicker. And then I used the Airbnb money to pay it off, and then after that, it's just profit.
So the business credit card, it was one credit card?
Yep,
All
one
right,
credit card.
Again, some people, how am I going to get a business credit card? I don't even have a business. So how'd you go about securing that?
So the very first thing I decided to do when I was like, okay, I'm actually going to take Airbnb seriously was opened an LLC. I think I used InkFile, like LegalZoom. I didn't even know how to open an LLC, so those like websites really break it down for you where you don't have to use too much brain power.
Right.
They just like, this is what you need to put here, and this is what you put here, and then it's done. So once I got my EIN, I went to the bank, literally just the local bank, and I was like, I want to open up a business account. Opened up a business account. And then after that, I actually waited to apply for the business credit cards just because I didn't know how long it was going to be until I got a yes, so I didn't want to waste like that 12 months no interest.
Right.
And then once I got the yes, because you can apply for a credit card and get approved like 24 hours. So I got a yes, and I was like, okay, now I need to go to the bank, apply for a credit card, and hope that like I get enough money. And I just turned 19, so I had like one credit card in my name, and luckily my dad like kind of helped me out with my credit when I was younger, so that was nice. I had a good credit score. But if you don't have a good personal credit, it's not like an end all be all. You can just work on growing the business credit beforehand, which takes about like 2 to 3 months to start reporting. And then I got approved, and I furnished everything with the credit card.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. So you spent your $800 on the deposits. You used the entire $15,000 to furnish the apartments. And is that are these studio, 1 bed, 1 bath?
So these are, all 3 of them are 1 bedroom, 1 bath. They're B listings, so they're not luxury. Luxury would be like an A listing. These are more like B listings.
Okay. And is $5,000 per unit, 1 bed, 1 bath about correct?
With inflation, maybe like 6 now, 6, 7. But you can make it work with, like, you can make it. If there's a will, there's a way. And I figured that out with this business. Is sometimes I just like, Hailey, what are you doing? Like, you can't do this. You don't have the money to do this. But I always figure it out. So
right.
I was like, $5,000. If you have $5,000, you put a bed in there. Leverage Facebook Marketplace, IKEA, Walmart. Like, there's so many ways to cut your costs down and still make it work. But
yeah.
I'd say like $5,000 to $6,000 for like a B listing, 1 bed, 1 bath. My luxury ones were closer to like 8 or 9. But again, it just varies.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, so $15,000. You said you broke even. How far in?
I would say about 3 months. I got lucky because of F1. Like, yeah, I was like, whoa. At the time, I was actually like living by the track, and I didn't even like really think, oh, like F1, like there's that many people gonna be coming. That was a lie. Like September, I went live September 14th, and I made like I think $4,700 that month, which was
profit or gross revenue?
Gross, yeah.
And what's your rent at the time?
It was 14 to 15
per unit.
Yeah. So I was just happy I was seeing money and seeing bookings. Like, I was through the roof. And then little did I know, the next month was F1, and people were going to be coming in from all over the world, and I hit $15,000 my second month. So I was like, okay.
$5,000 per unit.
Yeah, it was exciting.
All right, so 5K per unit, and then after that, I'm sure you're like, all right, this works.
Yeah, I was like, okay, this is the answer and the satisfaction that I needed.
Right. And so, how'd you go from those 3 to the next 16?
So after F1 month, that really just like was the answer I needed. That okay, like this works. I immediately started reaching out to just other properties and doing the same thing I was doing in the beginning, just picking a city and outreaching. And I got my biggest deal, which was 10 units in one apartment complex. I was still paying off these credit cards, and I wasn't getting approved for new ones, so I couldn't take on all 10. So I signed the leases under the business for all 10, and then I referred them out to my friend. So he took 5 and I took 5. But we have 10 in that one complex. And after that, these were remote. So in the beginning I started remote because I was in Florida and then I moved here. But these are in Utah, so I had to like...
These 10?
Yeah. So these were like super far away. So it was a little nerve-wracking. I knew no one doing Airbnb there. And it kind of seemed like Utah.
What city?
Like downtown. Like, why Utah? You know what I mean? Like, I've never been to Utah. I've never had a reason to go there. So I kind of was just, like, taking a shot in the dark. And I was just like, hopefully this works. But
who is your friend?
Oh, I just met him through Airbnb. And he was like, oh, I was like, I can't take on all 10 of these. Like, but I negotiated the deposits down because I was taking on 10. So I was like, I need someone to take 5 because I can't do it. And then if not, I'm going to lose the deal. And he was like, okay, I'll take 5.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. So the 10 units and, I'm sure it's a good pitch to a struggling apartment complex. How many units does that apartment complex have?
So this is actually 326, I think.
Okay.
It was a new construction. So when I went there, I signed the leases in November, and like I would say the last 2 weeks of November I was there. They went live December 1st. It was still like majorly under construction, so there was not that many people living in there. And I think that kind of was a good working point too for negotiation because the building was empty.
Right.
So and the people working there too, they want to hit occupancy because they get commission from that.
Right.
So when we were like, hey, I could come in and take 10 units, they were like, okay, like what do you have to offer? How are you gonna do that? So and then it ended up working.
Yeah, I mean you're offering to take up 3% of their inventory.
Yeah, they were like, okay.
I was gonna ask you. So after F1 is also ACL.
Yes.
Right. So that probably helped too.
Yeah, I feel like the bookings, like, cause I was still I didn't really know much about Austin. I just knew from what my sister told me. But every time, so one of the things they require when you book is to kind of give me a brief idea of like what's bringing you to town. Like, you don't have to tell me exactly what you're doing, but it's just like you can book and it tells me like what you're coming for or whatnot. And every time I got a booking, it was like, oh, I'm coming for this. Oh, I'm coming for this event or for this concert. And I'm just like, there's so much going on here. Like, this is why it's working. Like, there's so many people traveling here, families, solo travelers. Like, it just hits all aspects for like travel.
Yeah. And into the numbers a little bit more. You said you got $750,000 in revenue over the last 10 months?
I estimated that will be my estimated for the end of this year.
For the end of the year?
Yeah. So in September.
Let's do
for a whole year.
Math?
Yeah. I love math.
So 750 divided by 19 units?
Yes. Well, see, this is where the math gets kind of tricky because the first 3 I already broke even on them, but I continue to add to my portfolio. So that number might not be distributed evenly.
What do you mean?
I don't know. Divide it.
Divide by 19.
Yeah.
So $39,000 a year per unit.
Yeah.
Give or take.
Sounds about right.
Divided by 12. So about $3,200 a month per unit.
Mm-hmm.
And this is gross revenue.
Yes.
So
the 1 bedrooms for Austin right now are doing about $45 a month. Rent is $1,500. And then I would say overall I'm netting about 30 to 40% total.
Let's call it 30.
30. Yep.
Point 3 times 12 times 19. So you're looking at about
Yep.
netting 225 this year.
Yeah.
First year.
Yeah.
That's
year.
amazing.
I
Congrats.
know. Thank you.
So 20 years old, making 225 grand first year.
Yeah.
With plans of expanding much further. So what is your goal, for year 2 with Airbnb arbitrage?
Hey, this is Alex, and I'm the co-owner of TRE. Since the beginning of time, real estate has created more millionaires than any other investment, and I want to get you involved in a community that will help you achieve your goals within real estate investing. I know you don't have the knowledge, connections, or resources to start investing today. Most people spin their wheels over and over and over without ever actually taking any action to successfully start investing. That's why I want to get you involved in our community so that you can get the hands-on support, training, and meet the other members that you can start doing deals with in order to start investing in real estate. You need to get in the room with the right people who can help you achieve your goals and get the hands-on support and one-on-one training that you need in order to start investing. Just click on the link in the description to join the entrepreneur community today.
So I want to keep adding arbitrage units, and I really want to do like a ground up project. That's a little bit farther out, but hopefully like middle or end of next year I could do that. But my whole goal is to build an apartment complex and just Airbnb the whole thing. So that's my goal. I don't know about a year, but hopefully.
Yeah. And with this 225, you seem very smart and disciplined. In order to, not many people can do this, let alone a lot of people have trouble filing an LLC.
Yeah, that's true.
So let alone getting to this point. So with that 225, I imagine you're reinvesting back into your business, or are you going and buying a Ferrari?
So I wish I was buying a Ferrari. I actually barely have taken any money from the business. I'm just reinvesting it all essentially. And I think that's also helped me scale so quickly, is that I'm kind of delaying the gratification, I guess you could say. Not paying myself, and just keep reinvesting and keep scaling and keep adding properties and everything like that. But I would say in about 2 years, I definitely want to travel a lot. I love traveling. I do like this business too because it allows me to travel. But yeah, travel, keep adding properties, and then.
How is it? So we're coming up probably on a year's end of the leases. You think the apartments want to keep you in there? And
so I actually just re-signed. I signed them early, but yeah, so.
I'm sure that's nerve-wracking a little bit.
It is.
Are they going to extend? Are they going to renew?
It is super nerve-wracking. And that's another thing, too, is why it's so important to negotiate longer leases, especially in the beginning, because that certainty of, okay, I'm not going to pay to have all this moved in, and then in a year, it be over. So I really try to aim for longer lease terms, as long as they want.
Right.
I'll sign 5 years. I don't care. A long lease. But yeah, I actually just re-signed on the first 3. So that was super exciting. I was nervous about that. And then the first 10, I only took 5, but those first 10, I got 7 more there. So if they're giving me more units, I'm hoping that they're going to, re-sign the lease. But who knows?
Yeah. Well, and what's your plan with owning real estate?
That's another huge goal. So my dad actually is a home builder now. So he retired from the military and then started a home building business. So I kind of have seen that and how that works. I would love to own property. I really want to. I don't know how soon that will be, but that's the whole reason I'm doing this, is to invest in real estate, own property.
Why do you not know how soon?
Just because it's so new to me, honestly. And I feel it's intimidating. It's restarting Airbnb. It's a whole new thing. I don't really know much about it. So I don't know how soon that would be possible, but hopefully soon.
I think you
help me out.
Yeah. Well, we can help you out, but I think you do just fine. I mean, similar to this, you figured this out, just fine. And there, you already understand the aspects of making sure you're buying and negotiating a good deal, right? But now there's, same concept, just a few other aspects: financing, down payment, negotiations. You can structure a bunch of seller finance deals where you're not going to get a loan from a bank. You can take over people's existing loans.
See,
There's so
all
many
this is new to me.
creative ways for you to own real estate that'll pay you for forever, just like
I
this.
love it. That's the goal. My dad is just, over the years, he's owned a bunch of real estate, so I'm just like, that's the goal. Like, generational wealth. I'm trying to start early.
Yeah, well, you definitely have. Your sister, she's not involved in this in any way?
No, she does the agency, and that was another thing too. Is like, I had an agency as well. I did like a UGC agency, so like creatives for e-commerce brands, and then like ads and things like that. This was really important to me to have my own thing.
Yeah.
Cause your big sister, like, it's cool to like have that role model and stuff, but this is like my baby. Like, I am so proud of like what I've built and that I've done it on my own. And now, like, I try and like teach as many people. Like, I just feel like if I could do this at 20, like, I'm not a genius. Like, I'm just trying to figure it out.
Happen.
Yeah, I'm just figuring it out. And I have all the same resources that everyone has. So I think it's just like teaching. Like, my mom was like, she stay-at-home mom. She's worked a 9-to-5 her whole life. So like, that was like the motivation. Like, wow, I want to like show people that like you can make it happen.
Yeah, well, and you can.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And you should be proud of it.
Thank you.
All right, so the next years, do you have a goal of, going from 19 to 40 units, or?
So I made a vision board in January. Cliche, I know, but I did. And I had 30. I wanted to hit 30 units by the end of 2023, which is still a possibility, because I feel like it's like every day you never know what's going to happen. Like, one day you can have someone be like, hey, I have 10 units. Do you want to take them? And that could put me at 30, I'm at 19 right now, so I need 11 more. So if I can hit 30 this year, that'd be amazing. And then I would love to hit, like, I think my max for arbitrage would be 50. That's kind of what I want to stop at. But
Why 50?
Just because I should be,
Buying?
yeah. I should be, doing reinvesting into something else. I don't want to stop, but I probably would just stop getting new units.
Yeah. What so with your systems and your processes and everything, I'm sure you watched a bunch of YouTube videos and things like that to learn. Do you feel like you do something specific within your systems, your processes that work, really, really well for you compared to, what you've seen other people do?
Yeah, so that's something too that was a big learning curve for me, because it's not just you take photos and you list it on Airbnb. Like, there's so much that goes into it. Your automated messaging, so these messages, I have a whole flow that sends out to the guests before they even check in. And then also I just recently added like a virtual check-in process, like guidebook. So they get sent a link, they click the link, and then there's a bunch of videos that I filmed at the property, taking them through the parking garage, the key fobs, how to get to the unit, how to access the unit, and just making it more of a visual thing. Because when you go to a hotel, you go to the lobby and they give you a key and you go upstairs.
Right.
You could be hosting in apartment complexes, which are a lot more confusing, and if you're not a resident, you're not going to understand. So doing little things like that, changing the prices. I didn't realize, like, you don't just set it for $100 a night and just let it ride. Like, you have to, every single day I'm in price labs and changing the price and lowering it, a couple days before to try and get those orphan days booked, or, keeping up with events happening in the area, raising the prices. So there's a lot that goes into it, way more than I thought. But just treating it like a business.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
You mentioned a couple things. You said Price Labs and Orphan Days.
Yes. So
Price Labs is a software.
Yeah, Price Labs is a software to help you with dynamic pricing, and that kind of just goes. It takes into account the events going on in the area, but it's still a software, so it's not 100% accurate. So it'll give you prices they recommend, and then you could come in and kind of mess with it. But Orphan Days are just like, say I have the week full, but Tuesday is open. That would be considered an Orphan Day, and the goal is to be 100% booked, even if it's, at a lower rate, but you want to You
Have
want to make
revenue.
money. Yeah,
Yeah.
make revenue. So you can lower the price to get that booked. And that's what an orphan day is, just like a one-off for 2 days in the middle of the week that are open.
Got it. Yeah, I was curious about the process for check-in at an apartment complex, because I imagine they don't allow you to change your locks on there.
So they actually, the ones in Austin, they allowed me to change the locks, and I used Schlage locks. They're just like a keypad lock you can use. And that's all of my apartments have keypads, just because, having a lockbox with
Right.
a key, it's just not as streamlined or anything
Right.
like that. And I can manage it all from my phone because, I'm traveling or they're remote, so having everything managed on my phone is huge.
So everyone does allow you to change the locks.
Yes, so the first 3 allowed me to change the locks, and then in the newer buildings that I've been in, they already have Yale locks, which is like their competitor, Schlage and Yale. And it's the same thing, it's just a different brand, but they actually already had them in the door.
So they
that was
didn't
nice.
have any, they didn't combat you at all on that.
No.
Do you have to give them the code or anything?
So they have like a general access code, but in the agreement, like they can't enter the property without talking to us first, because
Who, the apartment complex?
yeah, like they can't enter the, like, say maintenance or whatever. They have to communicate with me before they can go into the building, like into the room, because I might have a guest and they know I do Airbnb. So they do have, like, I can give them a code, but
Yeah. And then the key fob for the gym, pool, whatever.
so that is placed inside the unit. So at the door, there's actually like a virtual key code. So they get an access code to get into the building. And then the fob and like the parking pass and everything is actually inside the unit. So once they get inside, then they can get the fobs.
And then if somebody accidentally takes it with them, which I'm
Yep.
sure has happened.
Yep. So there's like, obviously there's like a fee if you misplace or lose the fobs. But the leasing has like a bunch of them, so I'll just have my cleaners go pick one up, and then I'll charge the guest.
And does leasing charge you?
Yes.
Yeah, they're like $250
Yeah,
or
they're
something.
expensive. So
Yeah.
I charge $500.
Wow.
Yeah, $500 if you lose it. There's only been one person that's lost it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the cleaning, how much do you charge for that, and what do you pay for that?
So the cleaning fee varies. Sometimes it's like, I think it's like averagely $75 to $100. But I get charged $45 currently. I think this is the hardest part of the business is cleaning teams.
Why is that?
I'm still struggling with it. And I think it's because it's the only part of the business that's not automated, honestly.
Yeah.
It's a human team that has to be responsible for showing up on time every day. Cleaning, which I don't know if you like cleaning, but I don't really like cleaning, and it's hard. Like, you have to get every single hair. Like, if I check into a hotel and there's hair, I'm automatically like, ew, it's dirty.
Right.
So getting every hair, getting every crumb, it's a lot. And they're human. It's not automated, so they're gonna make mistakes.
Right.
And finding reliable people, and that the thing I've struggled with the most is, obviously as a business owner, I want to cut the cost down, but I need to be paying them enough to show up and do
a good job. Yeah.
So finding that middle ground has been, like, honestly the hardest part. When I first started, cleaning fees were $80, and I've negotiated them down to $45. So
Yeah. And then, do they stock the unit as well?
yeah, so in every single unit that I have, I take one closet or cleaning closet and I change the lock to a lock with a key. The cleaners have those keys, and then that's the storage closet. So extra towels, all the linens, the kitchen stock, so coffee, sugar, all of that stays inside the unit, and then they bring their own cleaning supplies.
Got it. And so, basically, every month or something, you'll stock that.
Yep. So I do it on just like a basis. So if they're like, hey, we're running low on coffee, can you order some more? I'll just order it on Amazon and have it shipped there. And then they just stock it.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so that's the hardest part, huh?
Yeah. Because, like, they're human. Like, they're
Yeah.
going to make mistakes. Things are going to be missed. People, I've had them just, like, not, like, the softwares weren't synced correctly and they missed a cleaning. The guest checked in and, like, it was dirty in there, and I'm just like, this is not okay. Like, this is not acceptable. But I mean, there's only so much you could do, you know, find the right people. I've gone through probably 4 cleaners total, which is not too much, but now I'm happy with the team, happy with the systems. So takes some time.
Yeah, well, good. It's a good thing you haven't had to deal with contractors yet.
Yeah, I'm scared for that.
So it's a good thing the apartment does their own maintenance there.
Yeah.
All right, and so your plan is to just do this for yourself, not do third-party management or anything?
I would be open to that, especially because, like, co-hosting and things like that, like, you don't even own the property. I would love to, you know, eventually property manage. I think that would be another cool thing to do. I feel like there's so many ways it could go. Like, I don't know, like, if the opportunity presents itself, like, I totally would be open to it. But I really would like to have, like, a building of my own. Like, I think that's my goal, like, my big goal. But if property management came about, I would be open to it.
So why not just, you're talking about building an apartment complex, but doing the whole thing Airbnb. So you really just want to build a hotel.
Yeah. I do.
Right?
Yeah, a hotel, essentially. Yeah. I think it's, a lot of people are like, oh, why do the apartment complexes just not Airbnb it themselves? Like, if they know you're making so much money. And I think it's because they don't know how to have the systems to make it easy. Because on a day-to-day, like, I really don't do much with it. I have a VA. I've delegated, like, so many parts of the business. So I just, like, if I can build an apartment complex and just Airbnb it, like, it's so much money to be made. Like, it's literally a hotel.
Yeah.
Just with Airbnb.
Well, I think that most of the owners of these apartment complexes, they're not in the hotel business, or if they are, then they would just buy and build hotels.
Yep.
You know,
and they don't really want to do it, most of them. They just want the rent. They just want the money.
Right. They're multifamily apartment investors.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's a lot of extra work to have a motel. I mean, we're in a call on Wednesday with 300, you know, multifamily investors or aspiring multifamily investors. And, you know, all of them are looking for, you know, traditional multifamily. And someone was presenting a motel to invest in with them, and, you know, everybody's returns are a little bit better, but it's a lot more work. It potentially could be a lot more risk, a lot less potentially guaranteed results. Everybody's always going to need an apartment to live in.
Yes.
However, you know, if there's a new virus that comes around in the next year or something, people stop traveling, then your motel may not be getting any business. And so I think it's just two different businesses.
Yeah. And I think there's pros and cons to both of them. Like, it's just another thing too, like, just, you know, weighing the pros and the cons, like, seeing if it makes sense. If it does, go for it. If not, and if it does make sense, or you think it makes sense and it doesn't end up making sense, that's just, like, a risk you have to be willing to take.
Yeah.
To see if it even does make sense.
Right. So 30 units, right?
Yep. That's
so 11 more to go.
11 more.
Only 50% more.
Yeah, so close.
What can we do to help you out?
Honestly, just, you know, I'm always looking for, like, friends, connections, networking. I'm so open. Like, I love meeting new people. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say anything, like, physically, I guess, just support system. I think entrepreneurship can be extremely lonely, and especially being so young, I feel like it's hard to connect with, like, people my age, because no one's really, like, doing what I'm doing, and if they are, it's just far and few in between. So just a community. I love having community and building connections and things like that.
Yeah, well, we can do that.
Awesome.
After this, I'm going to have Kat tell you about the entrepreneur community.
Okay.
So how can our viewers and everybody find you? You know, your Instagram, YouTube. If someone specifically wants to stay in your Airbnb on one of those orphan days, if you're booked, how can they find you?
Nice verbiage. You guys can follow me on Instagram. I'm super active on Instagram. It is at Hailey Marie, so HailieMaarie. And then I'm also on YouTube. I'm trying to be more consecutive with that. But Hailey Anderson on YouTube. And TikTok, Hailey Marie. The usernames are pretty the same for all the platforms.
Very cool. And then you can't search for like a host on Airbnb, can you?
No, you can't, unfortunately. But if anyone wants to stay in mine, DM me.
There you go. And then what would be your advice for maybe someone who is, your age, or even someone who's, later on in life but wants to do what you're doing or wants to take that leap? What advice would you give somebody who's looking to begin their journey?
I think it honestly just betting on yourself. There's been so many things I've wanted to do and never did because I was scared of failing. But who knows if it was even going to work because I never tried. So always try. It's not going to be the worst thing that's ever happened to you if it fails. If I started Airbnb and it failed, I still would be alive, still breathing. Like, it's not the end all be all. So it's okay to fail. I still fail, in a business. You're gonna fail no matter how good you are at it. So don't be afraid to fail, and just learn from it and do better.
Very cool. Well,
Yeah.
Thank you, Hailey.
Thank you so much for having me.